Hi, Chanakya. Or Rakesh, whom do we have?
Hi, this is Subhashri.
Hi.
Chanakya isn't here right now.
Okay.
I am recording. We can start the session.
Subhashri, just let me know once you are able to view my screen.
I'm not able to.
Yeah, just a minute. I'm sharing it. Subhashri, can you please make me the presenter?
Uh, Sorry, what did you say?
Can you make me the presenter, please?
Yeah, just one second.
Is my screen visible?
You are the presenter, but
I I just converted my attendee type to be a presenter. Is my screen visible now?
yes,
Okay. I think we are good to start.
yes. Just make it to slideshow mode, and I think yeah, that's about it.
Visible, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, uh, good morning, everybody. Uh, Welcome to the session for understanding your adoption journey for cloud for the coming 2021. My name is Ronak, and here we would be taking a walkthrough on what is basically the significance of moving to the cloud and how can your cloud journey begin from. Today, in the time where we are, the way we have adopted to remote working, the way we have actually started our new normal, whether my enterprise IT infrastructure will be capable
Hi, Ronak.
of serving.
Sorry to interrupt you. We are not able to
Yep.
hear your voice clearly.
uh, you're not able to hear my voice.
Yeah, your voice is breaking,
Okay, just hold on for a minute.
as well as your screen. It's getting stuck.
Okay, just give me 1 minute.
Sure.
Subhashi, am I now audible clearly?
Hello.
Am I now audible clear?
It's still breaking. Um, could you try sharing the screen?
Yeah, 1 minute. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Is it visible?
Yes, your screen's visible. Not the
You,
PowerPoint yet, though.
you mean the audio is distorted?
Yes, a little bit.
Okay,
Okay,
all
well,
right.
this is okay. Um, Could you share your screen, the PowerPoint?
Yes, just a minute. I'm sharing that. Mm, yes, I have shared my screen.
One second. Yes, can see your screen now.
Okay, I have not yet changed the slide. I am now changing the slide. Is it visible correctly?
It's still showing the first. Oh yeah, it did.
Okay.
Okay, I think we can start now.
Okay. All right. So when we talk about adapting to the Microsoft Cloud journey, we over here are first supposed to evaluate the current times where we are actually trying to serve the organizations from where we are. Today, remote working is something which is the need of the hour, and we are supposed to, serve the organization each time that we are connected from a remote location, may that be from my home, may that be from some cafe. It can be any place which is simply connected to the internet. When I am trying to have a connection established in this way to my enterprise environment, or maybe to the organization's resource access, it is important to identify whether my requirement of serving the users is going to be met or not. Today, we do have the of best possible, we can say, IT infrastructure services, but my enterprise is not meant to serve the entire workforce remotely. It does support working with a selective task force remotely, but not all of them. It might require some upscale of the environment. At some time, it might require some downscale of the environment. And when some information like this is needed, it is extremely critical to know what can be the next plan of action. That is where actually our cloud environment comes in the picture. Today, moving further with cloud is something which gives you a possibility to have limitless options to scale up your environment or satisfy the needs of the hour. There has never been a better time to adapt to cloud, because today, rather than investing on my enterprise IT infrastructure on premise, we probably might think of scaling up the environment totally into the cloud because of the versatility, because of the cost, because of the features, the kind of services that it provides, and a lot more. There has never been a better time to migrate to Azure. Like when I talk about the cloud journey, the first question that arises is why Azure, So over a period of this particular session, we will be discussing why Azure. The very first reason is the availability of Azure, the type of security protocols that they provide you to control your environment, and the type of cost benefits that Azure is capable of providing, which other cloud providers are not eligible to provide. In Azure, You have a versatile platform, which of course exists with every other cloud provider. So today, when probably you might think of having your migration journey to any of the cloud provider, this versatility is something that you will by default see. But when it comes to the kind of options that Azure gives you, especially for your Microsoft platform, they are unbeatable, they are unmatched, and no other cloud provider can render same services to you while you think of adopting to them. There is a cross-platform integration. There is a deep component and a deep service integration that Microsoft has with Linux in order to serve even even the applications and your environment, which is going to require a cross-platform compatibility. Now, why would you think of moving to Azure or adapting to cloud today? Guys, adopting to cloud today is important from various factors. First of all, I would want to start stating it as a consumption-based model. So when I say consumption-based model, today, let's say, for example, you have your IT infrastructure which is hosted in your on-premise. It is barely going to be possible for you to calculate the total ROI for your environment. Reason, you have your servers running 24/7. You have the replica of those servers running 24/7. You have some active passive environment. You have some primary DR environment. You perform business continuity DR drills. And at the same time, you even try to evaluate what exactly is going to happen in case of a downtime. But what till the time you don't get a downtime? The cost that you have invested is something which is not going to fetch you the correct ROI. Keeping these aspects in mind, cloud today is the best option that we can explore. Reason being, whatever technology that I might deploy in cloud, irrespective of the provider's stack, what I have in cloud is a consumption-based model. I pay for those minutes for which I have consumed the services in the cloud. But the time I have not consumed the services, I simply don't have to pay anything. Secondly, when we are talking about a consumption-based model, what becomes important is I actually know how much I'm investing on what and what will be the returns of that particular investment on my infrastructure. The on-premise enterprise infrastructure is not going to get you clarity on these aspects. The biggest reason why you should move to Azure, considering the consumption-based model, is the cost that you would pay for your resources in the cloud. What I mean over here is, if you have an on-premise Windows server, if you have an on-premise SQL server, you have your on Windows 10 licenses, you can have the opportunity to have these licenses consumed in the cloud without paying additionally for those licenses. And this option is explicitly available in Azure. So let's say, for example, I have maybe 2016 server and I have a 2012 server and a 2019 server in my environment, it's mixed mode. And I'm having, like, let's say, around 100, 150 licenses for my environment. I can simply spin up my resources in Azure with evaluation Windows copy and utilize the on-prem licenses to activate the VMs that I might have created in Azure. This option itself brings down my cost in cloud by at least 35 to 40% by using this option called as Azure Hybrid Benefit. This option of Azure Hybrid Benefit is what Microsoft provides for a reason which is obvious, that you are utilizing, you are consuming the Microsoft operating systems on the Microsoft Cloud platform itself. If you think about having some kind of a hybrid benefit like this in AWS, or maybe in your Google Cloud, or maybe in your Oracle Cloud, sorry, this is not possible. The hybrid benefit, the license optimization that you have is only and only available in your Azure as a platform. The second reason why you would move to Azure is the global reach that Microsoft has. So today, for you to understand, Microsoft Azure Cloud is the only cloud provider to have the largest coverage of fiber across the globe, having 54 Azure regions serving more than 150 countries to utilize these cloud services in every possible region across the world. It gives you multiple options to perform one simple migration. So let's say, for example, you are planning to move your VMware virtual machines or your hypervisor virtual machines, or you are just planning to move the applications or even the physical server-based configuration in Azure. You are not left with one single option. Instead, it gives you a list of options which you can select. Now, this list of options can either be limited to Microsoft resources itself, or it can even be third-party tools. Depending upon your use, you can opt for the relevant solution which you would want to implement. Azure Cloud Migration provides you a couple of benefits. The one that I said was the global reach that Microsoft has because of its availability in possibly every major region of the world. Immediate access to latest features, like you are going to have most of your workloads or your applications and services which are going to run on an underlying Windows operating system platform. And when you have it running on your Windows platforms, the updates that are going to be released by Microsoft every 3 weeks are the ones which you will be entitled to have at priority, making sure that you are getting the accessibility to those features before any other customer would get. It is highly scalable. When I say highly scalable, to give you a simple example, you can have a virtual machine from a 700 MB of RAM going right up till 200 GB of RAM, maybe 500 GB of RAM, 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte. The maximum that you can have for resource hungry applications or services like SAP HANA, the VM can go up to 8 terabytes of memory on a single instance. This is the highest provided by any cloud solution provider today. So it is highly scalable, having a memory of 700 MB going right up till 8 terabyte, which can be upscaled or downscaled at any point in time depending upon the usage, depending upon the consumption. And lastly, compliant and secured by design. Microsoft Azure has more than 90 plus compliance offerings to meet your requirements. These compliance offerings are not limited to be provided only by Microsoft. They are even third-party alliances who provide their services to make your environment compliant on the cloud. So moving to cloud, especially to Azure, has got its own benefits, especially starting off with the cost, the availability, the features and the services that it provides, the scalability and the compliance. When you think of migrating to Azure, when you think to start your journey to the cloud, There are ample of options that are being provided by Microsoft itself. So you have a three-phased process which can run to assess your environment on premise, give you a complete roadmap of having these resources moved to Azure. Once you have that particular roadmap, have all those resources of yours migrated to Azure, and after migration, implementing those various options to stabilize your environment. Let's say you do not wish to go by Microsoft options, you have a couple of them which are third party, and these third party solutions also allow you to perform a seamless move to the cloud. Azure, as I told you, may you talk about the licensing, may you talk about the underlying platform, having it as on the Microsoft platform itself, it is the best destination to move your Windows server and your SQL servers from on-premise to any cloud solution provider when you compare. The reason, the license benefits that you have, plus the consistency and stability that you have on-prem on your physical environment, the same is what you will get in Azure as well. And as I said, more than 90 plus compliance offerings with different OEMs to make sure that every enterprise is satisfied with the kind of requirement that they have. Cloud migration will provide a few key benefits. These benefits are going to be pertaining to not only moving everything directly from your on-prem to Azure, but also having a hybrid environment where you keep certain resources on-premise and move the rest to the cloud. And this will not only remain limited to your Windows operating system, but it also extends to Linux-based operating systems. May that be hosting your application or a database or any other service. Microsoft Azure Cloud has its own deep integration technologies for Oracle Cloud. It has got its own level of tie-up for Citrix. It has got appliances to offer for other security providers like Fortinet, like Palo Alto, and a lot more. So on the whole, when you are actually thinking of implementing this kind of a strategy in your environment, planning to move to Azure is ultimately going to be the best option that you will be able to figure out. And the most important of all, it is the only cloud provider having its data centers locally existing in the UAE region. It gives you option to not only implement resources in your environment, but to have everything around that implementation as well. So if you ask me personally, implementation or having resources in the cloud is not a big task. The task is all that you can see over here, which are absolutely the next level important activities that I will want in my environment to secure the resources that I have deployed in the cloud, to protect my data, monitor and have notification of the alerts, configure the update management and automation for the resources to save my cost, and lastly, govern the environment in the best possible manner to make sure that I meet all the compliance requirements of the organization. Moving data to Azure has never been that easy because Microsoft not only gives you online options of transmitting the data, but there are offline data box services as well, which can help you transfer terabytes of your data from the on-prem to the cloud. You can move your workloads to Azure directly, ongoing data move, that is, you can have a live migration of the data and your data stored to cloud. You can also automate that particular move using various options and methods that Azure is here to provide, categorizing it as an active data which is being used real time or a static data which once moved can directly be offered from the cloud itself. And then you have the data transport services that can be used like the express route to directly move the data over the network, data box services to take an offline copy and ship your drive to the Azure data centers or over a standard network. It depends upon your requirement how you want to move this, but the options range right from 100 TB up to 1 petabyte of storage. Now, while we are performing this particular move, what matters is the security of the data. I'm talking about the offline move, of course. So when I'm talking about this offline move of data, Microsoft gives you a specific SLA for having this data shift from your on-premise data centers to the Microsoft Azure data centers. In order to make sure that all your data security and integrity is maintained and you don't fall in a breach of some kind of a data security breach or maybe some kind of a data leak breach. So it has its own SLA which will be met in order to make sure that your data is safe while it is being moved from your data center to the Azure data center. Apart from having infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, which are usually the solutions that any cloud provider would want to offer, Microsoft has also leveraged its offerings across services like Windows Virtual Desktop. So when I say Windows Virtual Desktop, this is a kind of an end user solution which you would want to give to users who are working remotely in your environment. For example, you have users that require graphic intensive computes to work from home to meet the requirement of the business. It is not necessary that every user at home is going to have a laptop or maybe a desktop which is graphic intensive. And at the same time, in this particular span of crisis, it is not possible for every organization to make a physical graphic intensive system available to the user where they are. That is where actually your Windows Virtual Desktop for end users comes into the picture. This Windows Virtual Desktop allows you to have your app virtualization and desktop virtualization done from the cloud and offered to the end users. The solution is nearly 36% cheaper as compared to what you would implement in your on-prem to have the resources accessed remotely. And this is a replacement to your on-premise remote desktop TS web services that we have been using on the Windows Server platform. The most exciting part of Windows Virtual Desktop as a service is that it is available to most of the customers, and I mean most of the customers are already eligible and have the privilege to start using it, because users, I mean the end customers having the Microsoft 365 E3, E5, A3, A5 on-prem Windows licenses available with them, they can simply use these licenses to start spinning off the virtual desktops that they might require for end users in their cloud environment. So you need not procure separate licensing for WVD in case you have any of these that you can see on your screen. Even if you have your on-premise RDS licenses, it is something which can be used as a software assurance in Azure to satisfy the license need of WVD. So Windows Virtual Desktop is amongst another stable end user solution apart from the typical IT enterprise services that the cloud provider gives you, which is available in Azure. It has got options for service level agreements to be met to assure you uptime like probably none other. You have a individual virtual machine SLA for up to 99.9%. You have a cluster SLA for 99.95%, and you have a spanned environment SLA of 99.99%. And beyond all of these, you have a multi-region disaster recovery, which is having a composite SLA of 99.9999% uptime assured, which means a total downtime of not more than 52 minutes per year. The best of SLA that you can get for your IT environment. It has got ample of storage service options that can be used. Few of them offered at the infrastructure as a service platform where you would want to deploy disks and file shares in the environment, and some as platform as a service. Platform as a service will allow you to have storage categorized as containers to dump all your data, or store information in a NoSQL database tabular format, or inter-application communication queues. This altogether is giving you a unified distributed storage system for a reason that it should meet the requirement of different operating system versions that we are deploying in the cloud environment. You have multiple management tools, you have multiple repositories to control your cloud environment, including mobile applications. You have some really good repositories like GitHub and the Kubernetes repository and stuff which can automatically deploy codes based on your requirement in the cloud, removing the necessity for you to keep typing the code every now and then again and again. You can automate the deployments of code in the cloud using the multi-layer management tools that you have, which are already available free of cost. As I told you, it has a coverage of more than 54 regions, which are representing an accessibility of the Azure cloud to more than 140 countries across the globe, making it the largest cloud provider with a physical presence in the world. A really good coverage across the globe, as you can see the number of regions that it has available. And these regions that we are talking about are the public regions as well as certain government and private regions that Microsoft is hosting in Azure for specific type of customers, like for China, for US government, for Germany, etc. Key resources and investments that you have for this particular cloud solution is, one amongst them is the Azure Marketplace, where you have close to 10,000 products listed, including Microsoft operating system, Linux operating system, including security tools and services, automation tools and services, exchange components, data services that are available, automation services, scripting, coding, containerization, different third-party applications, and a lot more. So the marketplace itself is populated to serve almost every possible need of the organization, may that be in terms of a virtual appliance or directly the application as a service. For you to start your journey towards cloud, it also offers you a couple of options. The very first option that it offers you is the total cost of ownership. The total cost of ownership calculator is something which you can use to evaluate how much are you incurring as the cost today in your environment, against which you then have the Azure pricing calculator and an offline Azure cost estimator tool, which will help you to understand how much for the same number of resources will you spend in your Azure or in your cloud environment. You then have migration guides, wherein Microsoft defines a catalog of best practices that you need to adapt while having your strategy planned to migrate from on-prem to Azure. Not only that, it also has some really good team of experts sitting in the back end to help you, or to handhold your journey from on-premise to cloud at probably no cost. There are tools which will help you to evaluate your need and estimate the environment that you need to deploy in Azure in the most optimized manner. And based on all of these, you will be also implementing your complete environment with maybe third-party tools and services or without the requirement of third-party tools that you might want to have. Microsoft Azure will provide you with a solution called as Azure Migrate. Azure Migrate will help you evaluate your complete environment on-premise and have a report of the same exported in the cloud. Based on that report, you will be able to exactly identify your needs and plan the computes or plan the size of the resources accordingly inside cloud. This assessment is not only limited to any specific virtual machines, it is actually spanning across VMware, across your Windows and Linux, across your different types of applications that you might have hosted, the database that you might have hosted, your identity services, etc. So this typically is something that we can consider as a eye opener for having our journey planned towards the cloud. Today, migrating to cloud should not be an we can say should not be an option which is by force. It is something which has to be by choice for n number of reasons as we discussed over here. Apart from that, you also have a team of experts who will be associated with you in the backend to handhold you as a partner to drive your end customer's journey from on-premise to cloud. Keeping all of this in mind and having this short summary taken on how you can adopt and why should you adopt to your movement of resources to cloud in the coming year, we can now have a short question and answer session to address the queries that you guys might have, and post the question and answer session, we should be good to wind up the webinar for today.
Ronak,
Yes.
could we keep the question and answer towards the end? Now Hussam would be presenting from Fortinet.
Sure. Okay. We can have the question answer towards the end. Right now, let
Yeah.
Hussam proceed with the Fortinet part. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes, can you hear me?
Hussam, it's a little unclear. Hello.
I'm trying from my mobile. Can you hear me? Let me try from
Hello.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Oh,
We can
I was
hear
trying
you.
from my mobile. I guess it's not very clear from mobile.
No. No. This is very clear.
Okay, sharing.
Could you share your screen now?
I already started. Take some time.
Okay. Yes, I can see it.
Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can see.
Perfect. Is everything clear? I can start?
Yes, you can start.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I'll just be doing a short presentation regarding how can Fortinet complement Microsoft Azure security in deployments in the public cloud, and how can we work together as partners in terms of full cybersecurity in the public cloud. Let me start by saying that gladly and Fortinet is the winner of Microsoft Partner of the year 2020 in the commercial marketplace. So in the last 12 months, with the advanced threat protection campaign, especially featuring the FortiGate next generation firewall, we drove more than 12.6 million impressions and more than 188,000 views of the FortiGate video, and more than 42K visitors for the FortiGate in the Azure Marketplace. This was led more than 2,700 purchases for the Azure Marketplace for the FortiGate. The bottom line here is that FortiGate pay-as-you-go revenue on Azure grew by more than 80% of the previous 12 months, which is an amazing 10 times return of the campaign. Strong results, stronger partnership. This award, of course, reflects the proven growth and success of Fortinet offering on Azure Marketplace, as we see a significant customer demand there by enabling fast and simple deployment of new security services. So this is a great partnership, great win for Marketplace with an Azure in terms of Marketplace. Quickly, I'll be talking about where Azure security fits and what is in general our key solutions in terms of public cloud and on-prem. Just a very high level, we have, and most of you might know, we have a security solution called Fortinet Security Fabric. And that's briefly talk about how can all the security components from the network edge to the endpoint, to the cloud, to web application firewall, sandboxing, all these components have the capability to talk to each other and integrate seamlessly, whether they are on-prem or whether they're connected to the cloud on the SaaS or PaaS or infrastructure as a service. So we have a broad kind of security end-to-end, starting by the main one, which is the network security, which is mainly the FortiGate that has all the layer 7 application inspection, SSL, web filtering, antivirus, IPS in terms of security, including the SD-WAN, and also with the WAF, which is the web application firewall to protect your applications on cloud with the machine learning, and with the addition of the sandboxing for zero-day attacks. All this can be integrated on the Azure, Microsoft Azure public cloud, on-prem, and also integrate with other components. I'll be talking how we can integrate with Azure and what's the seamless automation integration in the cloud. But the key point to know here is that we have a full security solutions, and whether you want to migrate from on-cloud, from on-prem to on-cloud, or whether you want to have a hybrid solution, you can still integrate all these components all together from the network edge to the endpoint. With an important point, we have something called a fabric connector, which I'm going to talk more about. This is an important slide to show the full solutions and kind of an integration. Before we proceed, we have a lot of questions asking about who is responsible for security on the cloud, right? And of course, Microsoft will take care of the security of the backbone of Azure components and the backbone. But what about if you want to put your own application, if you want to put your own components on the cloud? So security on the cloud is mostly a shared responsibility between the customer and the providers, and we're here to help. So it's a shared responsibility. Provider will protect their own servers and databases and backbone, while you need to also take care of your own application privacy and networking in terms of security, in terms of reaching these components securely. And Microsoft also had great components in terms of security in Azure, but also we are partners in terms that in the Azure best practices, it's mentioned that in some situation where you need to enable security at high level of the stack, which is a layer 7 and above, in such situation, we recommend that you deploy virtual network security appliances provided by Azure partners. That's where we come in place. We're completing Azure network security. You can have both networking security from Azure and SG from Azure Firewall in terms of security, and also add a high level on the stack, layer 7, in terms of SSL, in terms of intrusion prevention, deep inspection, deep application, all the antiviruses, botnet, and sandboxing at the layer 7. So basically, they work together in terms of complementing or completing your full networking security on the cloud. So how can we integrate? Where we integrate with cloud when we say native integration? This is a very important slide, and this is the main slide in terms of the presentation. I'm almost in the middle of my presentation. So first, we're starting, we can integrate with Azure Sentinel. If you have a SIEM solution, you have Sentinel. We can easily send our devices or next generation firewall to send syslog to the Azure Sentinel. We can also integrate with Azure Function, where we receive events and triggers and have this automated responses, stitches, in order to respond to these events. We also integrate with having a ready ARM template, whether if you go to the marketplace where you want to have, let's say, one next generation firewall, FortiGate, or one web application firewall, FortiWeb, or FortiWeb. This can be a single or a multiple FortiGates. It can be a multiple FortiGates in a high availability, for example, FortiGate 1 in availability zone 1 and FortiGate in availability zone 2. And if one firewall or one device fails, the second will take over, and they are in different data centers. So even the SLA that we're talking about can be 100% because we're doing the failover between the data center and region if any of one is failed. So you have this automatic in terms of moving public cloud, public IPs and routing tables. This is automated whether from Marketplace or from our ready template GitHub ARM templates. We have already partners with Azure Virtual WAN. If you have many services of Azure Virtual WAN on the cloud, if you have an Azure Virtual WAN on the cloud, you'll be able to connect to the cloud in terms of having the managed services with the SD-WAN, and then we're connected behind that on the cloud. So you want to connect your on-prem firewall to Azure Virtual WAN, and then you have security behind. We are already a ready partner for that. We have already scale up and scale down in terms of you have some event or some triggers that you want to scale suddenly your VMs. We can do it in a virtual machine scale set and scale up the VMs and down whenever is needed. In addition, we integrate seamlessly with the Azure Security Center with a solution called Cloud Workload Protection, and able to connect to Security Center to check any vulnerability of configuration in terms of security or antiviruses on the cloud. Of course, we have integration also with the Azure Active Directory, where we can have the single sign-on, or you can integrate for the managed identity to do the high availability components. The main important factor here, if we have something called Fabric Connector, and you connect to Azure Backbone automatically, in a way that if you want, let's say an example, you want to reach the storage in Azure, or you want to use SQL, or you want some subnets on the cloud, you don't need to know the IP addresses. We have the capability to automatically have this all tags and service tags on the FortiGate itself, and use these tags directly on the firewall policy. So you don't need to know the IP addresses at all in your cloud. You can use, say, from this subnet or some service tag servers, I want to reach the storage in Azure or SQL. This is automated and dynamic. whether the IPs are static or changing. 3 more slides, I guess I have, or 2 more slides. So in a high-level design, what we do, as you know, in Azure, you have this all virtual network cloud components. What we do is we have one hub, networking service security hub, and we put all this component in one virtual network where you have your firewalls, sandboxing, mail security, FortiWAF, even the firewall of Azure. All this can be in this security hub, and even Azure Virtual WAN. All the security hub will do all this filtration. Take it as the DMZ of your on-prem. So all these components will do all the security from north-south, south-north, or even east-west traffic, having from known attacks to unknown attacks being filtered in this virtual network before going into your own component. So this is the public cloud security service hub where you put all your components. Moving forward, we have, that's why we're winning the partner of the year. We have so much of solution in the marketplace. Yeah, the Fortinet is one of the security vendor that have, you'll find more than 10 or 12 at least variety of products on the Azure Marketplace, and of course more than 17 for different flavors in terms of bring your own license or pay as you go licenses, where each one have a benefit of the other. You'll find the FortiWAF, you'll find FortiWAF Manager, you'll find a next generation firewall, sandboxing, ADC, mail security, all this kind of stuff in the Azure Marketplace. And even you have ready templates, as I said, for that in the Marketplace or in the GitHub. You can use BYOL to buy a license, which if you're using a permanent traffic that you always need, bring your own license make more sense. Basically, we license it as per number of CPUs you'll be using. For example, for the FortiGate, that's it. So if you're using 2 CPU or 4 vCPU, that will be the license for. Or if you have an event or you have to use it, for example, you want to go grow suddenly an instance during weekend or during sudden things, pay as you go make more sense to do it. So we have this both variety and availability. Automation, as I mentioned, whether you have FortiGate single or high availability active-active or active-passive, or even you have WAF, web application firewall in a single or HA deployment on an active-active with an Azure load balancer ready, all these templates will deploy automatically. You just need to put the subnet that you need and the VNet that you need, whether it's a new or existing, and automatically it will create your cluster or your firewalls or WAF or sandboxing with a ready Azure load balancer in behind if terms it's need an Azure load balancer, and all the components of routing and integration with the Active Directory all automatically with a single zero-touch deployment. This is, you'll find them in github.com/Fortinet or from Azure Marketplace. Some of them are already ready there. Lastly, so I'll be on time. You still have until end of year some free cybersecurity courses. If you see on your right, you can still access that link, and you get an SE4 or 5 or 6, I guess 7 still free. You can try it now. It's fortinet.com/training/cybersecurity professionals. You can register now and have free cybersecurity courses until end of year. And also, you can check our public cloud security offering and check Microsoft to see all the use cases and integration and all the documentation for the public cloud. You can also do a trial, or we can help you for that. With the marketplace, you go to Azure and directly connect to your FortiGate or WAF and have the demo or trial for that. We'll be gladly to help you in case needed anytime. Hope this has been informative. And please, if you have any question, we're here to answer.
Subhashri, are you there?
Yes, 1 second. Sorry, there was a technical issue. Yes, we can wind up now. Thank you for attending.